Welcome to the Codecast podcast. Real-world insights for your daily medical coding and billing processes. And now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Codecast podcast. Today, my name is Terry Fletcher. We are at our 158th episode of the Codecast podcast, and it is October 27th and the last Tuesday in October. So you know what that means. It's Terry Tuesday. It's Top 10 Tuesday. And my plan today is to give you my top 10 things I do at this time of the year as we start to prepare for next year. And I know that 2021 is going to bring a lot of changes, especially, as you know, for the E&M office and other outpatient services. So I realize we're at the end of October, and this could seem like to some of you as putting out the Christmas tree before Halloween. And I'm not really a fan of that, honestly. But I've noticed that if you take these steps early, and when I do it, I'm ahead of the game going into the next year, while everyone else is scrambling to get things done. And it also makes your end of the year mode a lot easier if you do it little by little. But first, I wanted to just give you some information that I have a colleague of mine, her name is Joliet Medical Coding Institute, or I should say she comes from there, her name's Kimberly, and she has a virtual conference coming up on November 7th and 8th. It's a 97, it focuses on compliance and billing. Now, for $97, 16 CEUs are available. So go to training.jmcipro.com and check it out if you're interested. Okay, so going into some of the things that I do to get ready is, number one, and this is the big one, order your new 2021 CPT book if you haven't done it already. I just got mine, and I've just kind of scanned through it a little bit, especially the E&M section, and there are a lot of new directions, many new codes throughout. And really don't wait. You need to not only order it, but when you order it, don't forget it then takes an extra week or two to get. And you're just going to start seeing a flood of information. So at least get it. I recommend that you get the professional edition. That's the spiral bound because it has diagrams, CPT references, and to me it's just better than the standard edition. So make sure you get that. Now, number two is once you get your 2021 CPT book, take the time, you need it in about an hour uninterrupted, to what I call tab it out. So in the very inside cover of your professional edition, AMA has already has in there self-sticking tabs for you, and they also are labeled. So they have things that say things like ophthalmology or endo for endoscopy, gastro, etc. And then they also have some that are blank, so you can fill them out yourself. But everything from the integumentary system to musculoskeletal, respiratory, cardio, and everything like that. And you don't want to do it next year. You want to do it as soon as you can. Get it, take the time, take an hour to do this. But you really just, trust me, mapping this out will give you an early, just kind of an insight into what's going on. But make the time, come in earlier, stay late one day. And if you're still working remotely, take your book outside, sit on the patio, get some fresh air. And all you need is your book and maybe a Sharpie for any of the blank ones to put in a special section that you use, maybe diagnostic or miscellaneous services or modifiers. But it's just a great thing to do in advance, and that way it's just all fresh, it's ready to go, and we all use our tabs. It's just easier to get to the section that we want. But do it sooner rather than later. That'll just really help you out. Number three is, and this is something that you may have thought about doing and you haven't gotten around to it yet, and it's amazing how time flies, but join a social media group for your coding or billing specialty, something medical. So many of you I know are on Facebook. Just so you know, I actually got off Facebook. It still kind of exists, but I really inactivated my account because it just got too political. And so I just had to get off of there. But I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram. But if you're on Facebook, they have a lot of groups, especially AAPC groups, and you can join them if you're compliance, if you're billing, anything like that. But it take about 10 minutes a day, see what's going on. You can make some friends, especially for those of you that are working remotely. If you're feeling very cut off, you can make some pretty wonderful contacts on social media work. And I know I've met several people and had a lot of good information and contact on LinkedIn. And for any of you considering venturing out into consulting, LinkedIn's the best one. But just know that social media can be good and bad because all of us spend way too much time on it. But when it comes to something you're doing for work and something that you're doing especially for those of you that are certified coders or certified billers, certified whatever you are in your specialty, and you're really trying to just keep yourself abreast of things, it's free. You might as well see what everybody's talking about. And maybe you have something to add. That's the big thing. Number 4 is, and you'll laugh at this, have you listened to any other podcast except for the Codecast podcast? So I have a new one that just went live for the National Society of Certified Healthcare Business Consultants. And our acronym is NSCHBC, and it's called the NSCHBC Edge Podcast, The Business of Medicine. Now, I also use the Business of Medicine as one of my mission statements on my website, so we're kind of playing on that. But what this one is it's an advanced podcast for physicians, providers, administrators, working professionals in the healthcare only, to make their practice financially solvent, profitable, and so you don't have to join a hospital system if you don't want to. It's really for that physician or physician group entrepreneur. It's on all platforms, and it's going to be very... It's hard to explain what I mean by that, but we have a lot of healthcare consultants, healthcare lawyers, healthcare CPAs. We're all certified in what we do, and just making sure that you get the good information and the right information. Also, there's a new podcast that I just started listening to, and it's from a colleague and friend of mine. Her name is Sonal Patel, and it's called Paint the Medical Picture. And she does a great job. She's got 7 episodes out, and her catchphrase is newsworthy tidbits. And some of the OIG, some about the work plan, the maintenance and committee meeting updates, with a little bit of coding mixed in, but really just some of the things that are happening that maybe I don't cover on this one, and a little bit more, I would say, more challenges that are out there in the world, and that's really what she's looking at, with a lot of clinical mixed in. So I really like it. And again, that one is called the Paint the Medical Picture. But really challenge yourself to get on a couple of work podcasts. I appreciate all of you that listen to mine, and the Codecast is doing really well, but also expand your horizons. It's very helpful. Now, I know we're in the 4th quarter of 2020, and so again, number 5, have you read any healthcare articles lately? Now, I know everybody does everything online. I actually like to get a couple of magazines, so I do get Modern Healthcare, I get Part B News. I actually get them white paper is what I like to call it, because I want to just to be able to read it and have it in front of me and not have to keep finding it on the internet or, bookmarking it or whatever. And sometimes they take them down off their website. So there's a couple of things that I actually do that. But you want to go to some places that have authoritative references and making sure that the information's accurate. But also this enables you to not have to search things out on the internet. And since we are in the 4th quarter, look at what we have on ICD-10monitor.com. I know I write for them quite a bit. Part B News, I'm usually a source for them. Modern Healthcare, another one, Advise Health. That's ADVIZE Health. That one's all about fraud and abuse. OIG, the work plans, they get into also the Department of Justice. And so that one is crazy if you look at that. But, the coding alerts, Journal of American Medical Association, really start to immerse yourself in some healthcare information and take the time to read at least 2 articles a month. In the 4th quarter, it's all about the new information. A good example, Part B News just for October. Let's see, what's my issue here? This issue 39, so October 19th, it had all of the CCI new edits that just were published on October 1st. And unless you read up on it, you may not even know it because Medicare doesn't always send it out. There's a new edit for telephone calls, 1 per day, and remember the once every 7 days. And there's some new 25 modifier edits with office visits when you have minor procedures. So it's really important that you try and keep up on that. Otherwise, it can definitely be a problem as far as not being current. So we always want to be current. I wanted to mention the Codecast podcast is also brought to you today by Modern Healthcare, the only healthcare business news weekly, online or paper, modernhealthcare.com. Okay, so number 6, have you looked or reviewed the Medicare fee schedule yet? So there's kind of a false narrative out there about we have a new fee schedule that's coming with the final will be in December, but we're looking at potentially a 9 to 11% reduction because the conversion factor, or our multiplier, is going down from right now a little over $36 to a little under 30, or a little over $32. That's a lot. Now, even though the work value and the RVUs may increase, and you're going to see that across the board because the multiplier is going down, which they have to, by the way, that's part of how the Social Security system works. They don't have a choice but to adjust it for balanced budget purposes. You're going to see a big deal there. So make sure you've reviewed it. You're slowly letting your physicians know, and then keep an eye out for that final Medicare fee schedule. And we'll also keep you updated as well. Number 7. So when you get to December, now you notice number 1 and 2 was buy your CPT book. Okay, now you can cross that off. Number 2 was take the time to tab it out. But you notice I didn't say to highlight your new codes. Wait until December to do that. You want to tab it out, and you can look through it as you're doing tabs and just kind of get familiar. But when you're in December, okay, that's when, first week, if you want to do it during Thanksgiving holiday, if you're bored, then you can do it during that point. But make sure that you go through it with a highlighter. I like my yellow and my pink one because the yellow one is the specialties I deal with most often. The pink one is where I put little highlights at the top of the page so I can find it. One of the things, as most of you know, cardiology is one of my number one specialties. And for some reason, I can never remember where cardioversion is because it's out of order. That's the 92960. It's not where it's supposed to be, and it's like 3 pages behind heart cath. So you have to know where it is. And so I put at the top, I put in pink highlight that page number, and that can help. And I put a little note up there. So if I'm flipping through, I'm like, oh, there it is. But just make sure that at that point, you're highlighting your new codes for 2021 and you're making your reference guides for all of your staff. I did not call them cheat sheets, and neither should you. Remember, we've had this conversation. You don't want to call them cheat sheets because who are you trying to cheat? So number 8, take a day for fall cleaning. I know we call it spring cleaning, but fall cleaning your desk and your shelf. Now, I'm not talking about the Windex and the cleaner we're using because of COVID. I'm talking about getting rid of clutter and publications that are over 3 months old and things that are on your desk, your to-do list. And, the old stuff, if you want to keep it, put it in a cabinet or in a file folder, but only keep current information where you can readily grab it. Organize your pen and pencil drawers, throw away old pens, go through and, use a little hand vacuum if you have one, and just get rid of sticky note pads that are bad, broken headphones, trays that have staples in them, things like that. But it's time to fall clean, unclutter your desk, and focus on the year that's coming. And trust me, you'll be happy that you did that in October, getting ready for the last 2 months of the year. Now, this one is kind of one that doesn't really have to do too much with work, but it has to do with a mindset. And right now, I was actually just reading something where somebody had put out on Twitter something to the effect that many of us call it now that we say something about we work at home or we work remotely. And I've moved my offices remotely as well because I don't have anybody coming to my office anymore. And I used to travel so much, but that's been cut off. It's only if I'm driving there, but that's going to open up next year. But some say now that, during the pandemic, we quote unquote work at home. But for many of us healthcare professionals and consultants, we now live at work. And so we have to remember that home is home. And I would challenge you to find $20 and just buy some holiday cards and stamp this year. I know a lot of us do the digital. I don't, but I know a lot of you do. You think, an email card from an e-card or, just a Zoom call. But, go old school. It's everything that we're getting in junk mail right now is so political. And because many of us haven't traveled to see family, and again, doing the Zoom thing, try to send a holiday card and don't wait. Look on Amazon. They've got really inexpensive ones. Do a family photo if you want, and do a positive one, and which would probably mean don't put your masks on in your card. I mean, if that's positive for your family, knock yourself out. But let everybody see your face. Let everybody see something that isn't doom and gloom. Even if the news doesn't say things are getting better, they are. One of the things always keep in mind, remember in April, when we were at the height of the pandemic, it was about needing respirators. And unfortunately, the height when we had the most deaths contributing from COVID. But even though we have more cases now because we have so much more testing, and remember, professional sports athletes, they're getting tested anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. Remember, the volume there is just crazy right now. And frontline workers are getting tested, and patients are getting tested now for elective cases, even if they don't have symptoms. So keep that in mind when the news isn't giving you kind of some of the reality of everyone that's doing that and getting tested. But things are getting better. Hospitals now are only at 8% capacity, and people are, even if they get to the hospital, they're getting out in 2 to 3 days. So, and those are usually patients who are over 75. So really just know we are in the upswing, we are positive, and get out a holiday card, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, even New Year's. But I would really do that. I just think that's going to make for just such a mindset, and it's going to get you back to old school. Write a nice note in there, throw in a photo or something, and have your kids sign the card. That's always fun for parents and grandparents to see that. Number 10, catch up on all emails and corresponding insurance company information. The reason I say that, I know some of you do keep up on it, and good for you. I think that's awesome. But a lot of companies, especially payers, they will put a hold on correspondence that they've requested and they haven't received it before November 15th because they start their year-end process in the 3rd week of November. And that's also when a lot of new of the local coverage determinations come out, the LCDs, and also some of the national coverage determinations are then in the works at that point. But payers will let those sit if you don't get them back to them until after February or November 15th. They'll let them sit until the next year, and then your money is being held. So focus on that. Try to get that before the next couple of weeks, and you will be really happy because then you can just focus on getting the rest of the year-end stuff done. So those are my 10 things. Order your new CPT book. Once you get it, make sure you tab it out. Join a social media group for your profession. Have you listen to any other podcasts? I've given you a couple of options. In the 4th quarter, make sure you're reading healthcare articles. You can find them all kinds of different places. Make sure you're looking at the Medicare fee schedule. When you get your CPT book sometime in late November or early December, highlight all your new codes. Get a day of fall cleaning for your desk and your shelves. Buy holiday cards and stamps this year. And then catch up on your emails and any insurance company correspondence before November 15th. This will make your life easier when you have to start getting serious about training for the E&M 2021. And I'm going to keep hammering you guys. Don't forget my on-demand or on my website if you need them. So far, the part 1 and 2 are done. We can send those right out. And part 3 is going to be recorded in the next week or 2. Okay, the coding question today. So this was interesting. It said, if a surgeon sees a patient in the office and schedules an MRI for the patient, can we bill for a telehealth visit afterward to go over the results so that the patient does not need to return to the office? Well, the answer is actually maybe. So what you have to keep in mind is that if you're doing something that you've always done. So if you have patients that no matter what testing they have, because you feel it's medically necessary to go over everything, and you've always brought them back into the office for an actual in-person visit, and now you're doing it because you want to stop the spread of COVID and it's medically necessary, then yes, you can charge a telehealth visit. Bottom line is it has to be medically indicated. But if you usually let the patient look it up in their portal, send them either a quick text or leave a message that their results are normal and that they don't need to do anything else, that's not a telehealth medically necessary visit. So try not to overutilize telehealth in that way because that will get you into trouble. And we've had a lot of, now that I'm all into the audits, we've had a lot of returned money and requests for refunds for test results and checking on a patient and, incidental phone calls that are not necessary. So please, limit yourself on getting crazy with telehealth when it's something that you would never have charged for before. Always keep that in mind. There was something my daughter was telling me recently where I've mentioned she's in Arizona teaching her 6th and 7th graders now. And she has a couple of kids before they went back to in-person learning. And they were saying, can we wear nails? Can we have purple hair? Can we do this? Because it's a school that they wear uniforms. And she says, if you have to ask, it's probably not something you're allowed to do, because everybody knows what common sense is, what you really aren't supposed to do. Keep that in mind as you're asking some of these questions as far as, well, if I didn't do it before, why would I do it now? Well, because you can. Yeah, that's not a good answer. So make sure it's medically necessary. Our coding question today is brought to you by Pure Leaf Real Brewed Tea. Real tea done right. pureleaf.com. So my personal tidbit this week, I actually was going to talk about something bugged me, and I'm still thinking if I'm going to, maybe by the end of this. But first of all, my Steelers are 5-0, so I'm happy. Hopefully when you're hearing this, we will have beaten the Tennessee Titans. I'm actually recording this the day before, on a Saturday, the day before Sunday. And hopefully we're still undefeated, but they're also undefeated, so you'll know by my mood next week. If I'm in a good mood in the next podcast in November, then you'll know that it's all great. But if I'm not, then it's going to be interesting. Lastly, we are a week away from the presidential election. Thank God. No matter what your platform is, I bet you're just ready to have it over. So please vote. If you can in person, make it count. Vote in person. But I wanted to address something. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to. That came up as a comment on my YouTube channel. And as much as I appreciate all my listeners, I love all of you. I appreciate all the kind words that you listen. The comment was actually very nice until the end, where it says, I love you, Terry, but it says, you need to keep politics out of your podcast. All right, let me make something clear. If I really wanted to rant about politics, I would rant. But I do comment on it because a lot of it has to do with the change in healthcare. And regardless of what your belief is, first of all, I'm very proud of the current administration on what they've done with transparency for drug prices and bringing drug prices down for our seniors and for everybody. Insulin is the lowest it's ever been per month. Instead of $560 average per month, it's now down to $35. Just making sure that we've covered pre-existing conditions, making sure telehealth is there. And I don't think the Trump administration gets enough credit for that. So if you feel that that's political, then I'm sorry, but it's not. It's something that when he says he's going to do something, he does it. The other thing is that, and this is going to come off, probably some of you aren't going to like it, but this is my podcast. And unless I'm using profanity, this is my podcast. And if you don't like what I'm talking about, you don't have to listen. And as much as I don't want to lose any listeners, I love all of you. Please don't think you can dictate to me what I can do on my podcast. I'm not going to do it. I love doing this. I love sharing information, and I really like bringing it to you. And so I try not to be too slanted towards one way or another. Yes, I'm more right than a lot of you probably are, if those of you on the left, and that's fine. It's a free country. Do you, absolutely, and I will do me. But I put out a lot of information for you. I'm very dedicated. Like I said, we are at 158 episodes over the last 3 years, and I make sure that you're updated, and it's a lot of work to keep this produced, and also it's an expense. Even though we have sponsors, it's still an expense. So I just want to get a little bit on a soapbox there just to let you know, as much as I appreciate the comments, I'm probably not going to let up on that. So that is part of who I am, and it's even something I'm considering running for a local office. So just letting you know that is something that I am going to continue to do, and I'm allowed to do it on this platform. So hopefully that answered any questions for anybody who was wondering. But everyone, I hope that was okay. I love all of you, and I did want to shout out a couple of people that have been really just awesome on letting me know that they really appreciate some of the information. So we had Isabella actually, and Daniel, Maria was awesome. Pam, thank you for my birthday wishes. That was really funny. And then we have Renee. I love your comment about the podcast. And then also Rebecca. And let me see if I've got anybody else here coming on here. Let's see, Elizabeth, and I'll do a couple more. Rachel, and let's see, and Eric. So thank you very much, and all of you. Anushi, I know I love you. You're always commenting on my podcast, but I just really appreciate all of you and your comments and everything that you give to me. So thank you. So everyone, on this Terry Tuesday, make it a great day and a great week. And again, thank you for listening to the Codecast podcast.
For more information on medical coding, billing, auditing, and compliance, including how to hire Terry, follow Terry on Twitter at TerryCoder1 or visit her website at www.terryfletcher.net. Podcast producer Joe Kuzma. Music producer Dassassin Music.